Hey, Sari. Here we
Hello.
are again. Hi. We are in a series of recordings uh, in the midst of our conversation that we have been having for the past 3 years about supervision, because we have developed a program about becoming a supervisor, which we are both very excited about, and also bringing in our own resources and our own experience as supervisor. Quite different in different stages of your life and my life, and in different stages of our professional development. We bring that together, and I think that's very uh, I think we are a strong team together, and I'm very pleased for the students that we will have in that course. I really am. I think it's an opportunity to learn from two people who know their stuff, but also who have been out there.
Absolutely.
I really like that. So our program starts in June. It's EMCC accredited. There's something about the EMCC is
It's
an
a
addition.
senior level program.
Senior level, that's important. That's important. And on May the 22nd, we give a free webinar for everybody to get to know you and me and get to know something about the program and the way we work. So we are happy to invite you for that webinar. Um, Now we are going to talk about the narrative that people bring into
Mm,
supervision and
mm.
the importance of following, but also sometimes interrupting that narrative.
Yes,
Um, because every supervisee comes with a life story and with their experiences that they bring in their working context, in their profession. So that's what we're going to talk about.
yeah, I think in TA we would call that the psychodynamic level, and we have many different concepts to talk about there, like second order structural ego states, or even racket system, life
Yeah,
position, life
yeah.
script. It's all about the stories we tell that really confirm some early decisions which may not be so functional now.
Yes. And the cycle of development. So you and I both work with the idea that development and is something that comes in a cycle. And
Yeah,
it's not a linear process that you grow and grow and grow and get
I
stronger and
wish
better.
that would be
Sometimes we
great.
wish.
So you come with Bista.
Yeah, yeah. I
It,
really, really like he has Gerd Biesta is one of the educational philosophies that I really like. Uh, Following, and I like the way he writes. And he has um, three things that are important that I feel that are extremely valid in the supervisory realm, and they are interruption. So
Mhm.
there's something needed of an interruption of the story that somebody is telling themselves or telling others, or the patterns that somebody is walking. Just a small example, I had a supervisee who said, I really want to change. I really don't want to be working all the time and being setting goals very high. And in the midst of that conversation and that supervision, I said, you know what? I have a doubt if you really want to change.
Oh, wow.
And and he was first he was a bit in shock. It was a genuine interruption of what he came for and what we would have been working about for a time. Um, but I could feel in myself that there was also truth in that the change, the real change, was maybe uh, a wish, but not something that he really pursued. Um, so that's an interruption. You really interrupt something, but there's something else needed, and that is sustenance.
Hmm.
So you can't interrupt if you can't hold and contain the person. So there needs to be a level of sustenance for whatever is going on, so that somebody can feel, oh yeah, that interruption is actually something that you can make. because I feel that you are also taking care of me while you do it. So there's sustenance, interruption, and suspension.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Yes, because there is something about that pacing that we were talking about earlier, that you really have in the suspension. There is maybe it's patience that you have to have, or
mhm.
there is, if you have a certain amount of supervision that you have agreed upon, that you know that in the suspension you have to follow up on what you have been doing before. Um, and while I am talking about it now, I realize how all the three of them are actually part of that holding containment
Mm.
dynamic.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do
I
you?
love the word suspension.
It
Yeah,
really.
I was thinking it's interesting because you're talking about interruption and sustenance and suspension, and I was thinking, there's a very there's another way to work with narrative. So often, like you said, supervisees come with stories about their clients, but also stories about themselves. You often get the client you deserve, so certainly you sometimes, especially beginning supervisees, often get clients who have similar stories, which is
Yeah,
also interesting.
yeah.
Um, I think that narrative level is very fragile because it's a story you've constructed very early, but you haven't always tested it. Usually you filter out information that doesn't fit with your story, and then you continue life that way. But one of the ways I've really learned to work with that is not interruption, it's actually validation.
Ah,
So um, there's a beautiful book called Immunity to Change, and I often use the techniques from that. So I was thinking of one of my supervisees who came with a story. Yeah, I've changed a lot, but the people that know me don't see it. Then they won't accept that I've changed, and I feel discounted. And so instead of interrupting, I said, "What if it's true? What if it's true you've changed?" And they don't believe it. But let's first test if you've changed. And so I set up a little experiment usually. Instead of interrupting, I say, okay, it's true, you have changed. And then they have to, for instance, in this case, they had to interview people they loved to see if these people they loved actually
mm,
saw the change. Because often I think these stories go, a script is not validated by the adult,
mm.
and I just go with them. It's almost like judo. I go with them and say, it's true. What
But
happens
it's
if it's true?
but that's interesting because I feel that that could also be part of the interruption is to validate somebody and say, yes, I follow you. I believe what you are saying. And so the interruption can also be the validation because that is something that somebody might not have gotten,
I've had, yes,
have had.
yeah,
So there's something about that. The beauty of the interruption is not always like harsh
not a
and
cut.
cut.
It's also a,
Maybe in that example that you are saying about validation, I can really see that that is also something that is provoking
yeah,
and important for somebody,
yeah,
and changing.
yeah. I think changing the stories takes a long time
Yeah.
because you've invested so much in validation. And I think for me, when I started with TA, there was this, for me, a myth that you could change your story or redecide in 20 minutes or whatever time it was. And the older I got and the more I did, I thought, no, it takes a long time to really unpeel that and change it. Because I think underneath all of these narratives and stories, we have what we call a compelling commitment. So there's something about loyalty or love or fear that is holding you back in changing your story. Because if you would give up the story, what would happen to you?
Yes.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
in this book, Immunity to Change, they talk about this example of this guy who wouldn't take his heart pills. And the diagnosis was, if you don't take your pills, you'll die. So why aren't you taking your pills? And at some point in the interview, this patient said, yeah, but if I take my pills, I'll be like my father.
Ah,
Interviewer, who wasn't a transactional analyst anyway, but he said, but why would you be like your father? Yeah, my father had a heart condition, and if I take the pills, then I'm like him. So I don't
oh
want to
yeah.
take the pills.
My goodness.
And you can see how deep that
Yeah.
belief or that compelling commitment is. I don't want to be like my father,
Yeah.
even if I have to die for it.
Yeah.
Now, for our supervisees, it may not be so dramatic, but sometimes,
Yeah.
loss of vitality, the loss of health, the loss of relationship, that comes with validating your primary story so many times. Um, yeah, I think it is quite dramatic, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what we're both saying is, yes, you can work at behavioral level, at relational level, but paying attention to the stories your supervisees bring
Yeah.
and interrupting or validating or looking for the compelling
Yeah.
statement.
Yeah. Providing a holding environment where somebody feels that it is safe to look that in the eye, to look the script and the narrative in the eye, and to say something about, yes, I realize that I want to hold on to this part, and I realize that I've really, really had enough of this part, and
Mhm.
how can I work with that uh, in the here and now, in the relationship with me as supervisor, but also what do I bring of that back into the
Client.
uh,
Yeah,
client perspective or the environment of the profession.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We
It's
have
good.
such a beautiful profession.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to share it with you.
Yes, likewise.